One thing is very true is that when you miss in recruiting, you better go and take care of your golden nugget. That is what LSU with Joe Sloan and Frank Wilson are doing, as they are currently in Michigan on a visit with Bryce Underwood. We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports. Hope all of you are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Yes, we're a little bit live earlier than normal today. Ben has a T-ball game, so I got to be there. You know I got to root on my dude. So we're going to be a little bit more live today. So we got lots to talk about, lots to get into. Glad you're here with us. Listen, I'm going to start off this very quickly, and we're not even a minute into the live show. I think this warrants it. Is over the last 48 hours, I've taken a pretty big beating on social media or just in the comment section of these shows because of my thoughts and opinions that has transpired over the last 72 hours when it comes to LSU recruiting, or specifically the portal. And I'm going to say this, and I hope it does not come off the right way, but I'm going to lead off the show with it today. It is not my job to be a homer for anybody. Now, what's interesting to me is I get labeled a homer a lot of times by a lot of different people. And I do think it's crazy that right now I'm the negative Nancy in the room. Well, people are going to have to start picking a side, because one thing is for sure, in my opinion, I try very hard to come out here every single day and give you the most right, truthful opinion that the way that I see it. If you don't like it, that's fine. But the personal shots are not going to necessarily be tolerated by me or should be tolerated by anybody. We can have a disagreement. I love disagreements when we can come in here and debate and have an opinion on something. But to say that, oh, I liked your show. No, I don't, because you're being too negative. No, I'm being truthful. So we're not talking about the portal again today. We're going to actually get into what the actual season right now, what we need to happen. But I'm not going to change myself or my opinion because it makes you feel better. It just will not happen. I'm sorry you feel that way about me or anything that I do. But I'm going to tell the truth the way that I see it. And if you don't like it, you don't have to be here. I want you to be here, but you don't have to be. No one's forcing you to be. But it's ridiculous, some of the shit that's out there being said. So I gave you my opinion, and I will finish with this. Today, right after I was done working out, by the way, your boy's down 30 pounds on the carnivore. Y'all need to get on it. I had an epiphany. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm going to start off by saying this. It's interesting because about 3.5 weeks ago, when LSU baseball was a little bit in the dumps, a lot of you came even into this show and said, well, Jay missed in the portal. We should have gotten better players from the portal. And that's interesting that people were saying that. Because now, when in baseball you were having a bad time during conference play, you were like, well, Jay should have gone to the portal more. Well, what do you think happens when you go into conference play this upcoming season? Now, LSU football as it relates to, okay, like, oh, let me give an example very quickly. If you're going up against Ole Miss, if you're going against Alabama and they're running all over you, you're not going to worry about the $1.5 million that they spent. That's the last time that I'm talking about it for now, because we got more we need to discuss. We do have a good show in store for you tonight. I'm going to go a little bit on the Ruffino's rants here, so stay tuned for that. High LSU expectations. Four players that I think that need to have big seasons, and I do think that we'll have big seasons for you to progress. And I do think two things can be true. We're going to talk about a lot of the positives. We've been we have critiqued, we have observed, we have talked about a lot of really good things. I'm going to give you players that we really need to stand out here. It's their time to stand out and where you can be. We'll also talk about the spread, the lines. LSU is only an underdog in one of them, but I think that that's interesting that LSU's win-loss record or lines for all these games, that they're favored in all of them but one, but LSU's over-under is 9.5. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's why Vegas makes more money than anybody, so we'll touch on that as well. We'll talk a little bit about the baseball game today, maybe some quick things that I want to see today in the last midweek game, and we'll talk about the Saints at the end if we have time, along with some of your questions. Hashtag Ask Blake, thoughts, questions, concerns. We'll get to them, as many of them as we can. Let's get to a couple comments. Stephen Fry, good buddy over at Fry Construction. You need to go over there in Eunice. He says, busting up in this bit at 3 o'clock, and I'm here for it. Good to have you in here, my man. Y'all need to go over to Fry Construction, man. Great, big-time things are happening over there. We appreciate Stephen for always being here with us. Lance says, what up, Blake? The DL squad, we got going to have Cowboy up fast. Well, look, we're going to talk about Aiden Hutchinson today from ULM. What do I think about him? And we'll go from there. Dorian says, you speak the truth, brother. Suck it up, Buttercups. Go Tigers. Absolutely. That's the way that I feel. They're mad at me. Dude, you should have seen my inbox today, yesterday. I mean, like, literally was freaking ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous at some of the shit that was flying in there. People say, oh, well, Blake, I want to do a podcast. Okay. Well, you're going to have a lot of people calling you names that you never thought you'd be called. I'll just say that. Stephen says, what's Ben's plan at the plate, Blake? Elevate and celebrate, ? His game plan has been, dude just hits, I can't say, in today's world, I can't say what he says. But he hits, it rhymes with Luke. Okay, starts with an N. That's what he says. But my man likes to take the ball the other way, man. He tries to hit the ball back up the middle every time. He gets frustrated because, like in coach pitch, like a little underhand coach pitch, he elevates, but on a tee, it's really hard for him, to elevate here. So, nevertheless, I'm excited. He's excited. We didn't have a game yesterday, and he was kind of like prancing all over the place. But your boy got my boy got a big-ass 22-foot water slide yesterday for his birthday. I'm going to need y'all to send in all kinds of super chats. You know what I mean? I need y'all to send in all kinds of super chats. A 22-foot water slide, dude. Ridiculous. That kid, he has more fun right now than I ever did. Paul Short with I like his profile with the thin blue line, says, is there anyone else that we are going after the portal? I mean, I can mention this here. I'm really intrigued to see what they do with Aiden Hutchinson from ULM. The defensive end, D lineman from ULM. Look, I'll say this. I think the kid can play a little bit. I think the question, though, is, do you need more of an edge guy? And look, I'm not saying you don't. I'm not saying that he can't come in and play over a Savion Jones or anybody, Prayer Shan, whoever. But does him coming here make sense for him? And the question, and look, I do think he's a good player. I really do think he's a good player. He's a solid player. The question that I would ask is if the kid was not at ULM, would you want him to be here? Right? And I'm always skeptical unless you're a big-time performer in group of five. When you make that leap, I think it's very difficult. Do you move Savion Jones inside the DT at his size? And here's what I'll say, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself because this is what we'll talk about, is, people are saying, just move Savion inside. And I said that last night thinking that people would understand that I meant it a little tongue-in-cheek, but I really didn't. Okay, what I meant, I don't think Savion is meant for the inside, down in and down out. It's not his strength. It's not his ability. So maybe, I mean, look, Corey lost the Wake Forest DB, Deshaun Jones, to Alabama. At least that's where it's trending. I mean, you have multiple people reporting that that's where he's going. So I don't know, man. I legitimately don't know. It is what it is. All right, a couple more. We'll get to that a little bit further in a minute. Ray Powell says the water bill for the $22 water slot. I know it's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous. Let me tell you something about my son, man. And this is something that, you always wish your kids are better than you were. Like my man wants a birthday present so that he can have his cousins come over and play with him because he loves his family. And I can't thank God enough to be blessed with like the kids, everything that, sometimes I look at him and how he acts and how big of a heart he's got. I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed the way that he is. He is fantastic. So that's like, I like when people want something, they usually think of themselves. He wants his cousins to come over to play with him. He's got three cousins that live next to him, and he's got two others, and he just, he really, really, really he loves being around his family. And I think if you ask him, he'd want to be around his cousins and go swimming and be in the water. That is Ben Ruffino in a nutshell. Baseball, play in the water. Baseball, playing, and chicken nuggets. Like, look, I'll be real with you. I think I'm 100% have funded the collective at Arkansas based off of how much Tyson chicken we've bought over the years. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm paying for the point guard at Arkansas right now. You're welcome, Calipari. Maybe you should invite me to your, to what you're doing up there at Arkansas, because I've basically bought a point guard at this point. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right, let's get rolling. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all those groups. If you're on Facebook, share to all of those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Before we get to the break, I got to mention, and I continue to mention, look at this awesome hat, dude. Listen, my people in here, listen to me. Hat wearers, do me a favor right now. Go to melon.com/AYS. Not right now, but after the show, go to melon.com, melin.com/AYS. Get you one of these hats, man. They are freaking fantastic. 5 times stronger than any hat that you'll ever wear. They have the antimicrobial properties. So if you sweat in the hat, it doesn't break down the hat. It doesn't smell. There's no stains. If you drop it in water, it floats. Oh, if you just want to buy one online, they have this snapback thing where you can do the size head, where you do small, classic, XL. It's phenomenal. I mean, this hat, like, look at this right here, man. Look at this right here. Like, this hat fits perfectly on my head. You need to go over to melon.com/AYS. Use that promo code to get 30% off of your order. Let's get to a quick break. We got lots to discuss. We do that next. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag. betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. No, not mud bugs. Unwanted bugs like these. The ones you don't want crawling in your home or business. Trust the Shield from J&J Exterminating. We've been protecting Louisiana homes for over 50 years, earning the trust of our clients because we deliver what we promise. Protect your home from pests. Get the Shield from J&J Exterminating.
J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
We're back. All right. Let's get this thing rolling, y'all. You know, it's funny because around this time of year, I always have the same conversation with you. I've had it with you for probably over the last 3 to 4 years. Well, since, this time in 2020. Every single year, I come out around this time and tell you the following. Guys, do not do like me and get lost in the trap of all these certain lists that come out because these are people's opinions. Now, let me emphasize, content creators like myself at this time of year don't necessarily always have tons to talk about. So it's list season. Hey, here are our power rankings coming into post-spring football. Where does everybody rank? Who are the top 5 head coaches? And I know that we do them on Ruffino and Joe Show. That's neither here nor there. But I'm telling you, I'm seeing a lot of you get caught in the trap. A lot of you are getting caught in the trap of, oh, man, does this guy really believe it? Look, man, bottom line for LSU this year, it's time to put up. It's time to get after it and put up. Which leads me to a thought here on something that's very interesting. I saw the spreads that came out for LSU in the 2024 football cycle, and I think that it's really interesting that LSU, on most of all of their SEC games, and more than that, like they're favored against UCLA, they're a 6.5-point favorite. They are a favorite against UCLA at home. And the only, how do I want to say this? The only underdog that they are against is a 3-point underdog to Texas A&M that I don't know how much sense makes, but maybe they are. What's interesting about all of that is that LSU is still their over-under win total is 9.5. What does Vegas know that we don't? Now, over the last couple of days, we have talked about religiously about the misses at defensive tackle, and I do think that they're very warranted. They're 100% very warranted on missing 2 guys that you were really going after. Let's see what LSU does with that. We're not going down that rabbit hole again. But it got me to thinking, and what is going to be the main topic of our conversation today, of who are some players that are going to need and have very high expectations when it comes to going into 2024. Here's what I 100% believe. I do think that you can be a 9-win team. I think that you are talented enough, and not only just talented enough, I think that you have a good enough coaching staff to get you there. And I see a lot of people that break down this team and say, well, hey, I don't understand the hype. And I understand that. I understand that you don't understand the hype. But let me clarify a couple things and where I do think that people are misunderstanding. I think you can have the conversation that, well, LSU is really bad at DT, but I don't know if everybody's looking at everything that LSU does return. You know, we talk about Garrett Nusmeier having to replace Jaden Daniels. I think he's got to have a big year. I think that we talk about 2 first-round wide receivers that you have to replace. That's going to be a big deal. I'm with you there. But why does Vegas have LSU currently in a win-loss perspective favored in almost every game. Let me tell you my opinion and my logic and my thought is because, like we've discussed before, LSU has and will continue to have really good individualized talent in many positions. You know, I look at linebacker and I see Greg Penn going into his third year of being a starter. You know, what's interesting about this place, we have seen this pretty religiously, is that when a linebacker at LSU goes into their third year of being a starter, Damone Clark, Micah Baskerville, and others, Patrick Queen was only really 1 year, but had starts in the second year he was here too. The leap that they make. You know, we see Harold Perkins, and I think Harold Perkins had a better game during the spring and had a better spring than people give him credit for. It just didn't look as great because of how good that offensive line was, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I do think that you're going to bring Whit Weeks into specific packages. I don't think Blake Baker is going to sit on his hands. I think he's going to be very multiple. And I do think that you're going to see those three guys play a crap load of snaps. I think they know that if there is an athletic room at LSU that is really up there, I think they look at linebacker and say that is a really, really skilled room. They obviously look at the offensive line too with Emory Jones and Will Campbell. And I think that there has been some logic behind and a lot of discussion behind what LSU is going to do offensively moving forward. Guys, I can 100% see LSU coming out week one versus USC and running the ball at a more effective rate than they did with the running backs last year. And you know what's crazy? I see a lot of people saying, well, LSU wasn't really good at running the football with the running backs last year. What games did you watch? They got away from it a little too early, and they were down so much that they had to throw the ball all over the place. That, guys, there's nothing wrong with a 3 or 4 yard gain. Ask Alabama how that worked. It literally helped lead them to a playoff run. So I do think that there are multiple players that are going to have a off season or starting on June the 1st that takes them to that next level. I think number one is Greg Penn. I do think he can make that leap. Guys, we saw Greg Penn play so much better. Now, I know he had a bad missed tackle in spring game. Look, it is what it is. But I do have faith that he can continue to get better. We need him to be that anchor in the middle because of things and deficiencies that you have up the middle. I think, obviously, we talk about both bookends religiously in Emory Jones and Will Campbell. But I think DJ Chester's got to have a big year for you too. And I think we look at him and say, look, man, I think LSU's offensive line was really good last year. They returned 4 starters. Oh, by the way, they got better at center. The truth is about LSU, when you take a step back and look at them as a team, they have more question marks than a lot of teams in this conference. I think they have more question marks than Georgia, more question marks than Texas. To even some extent, I think they have more question marks than even Alabama to some extent, not far off, because of everything they're replacing. They're replacing 3 interior defensive linemen, 2 first-round wide receivers, a first-round number 2 overall draft pick quarterback. But you know what's interesting, and when I look at this team, guys, I think they're about to get back to what they were in 22. I think that they are going to and have the ability to play better defensively because of schematics, but I don't know if they can take that next leap to get to a playoff. That's neither here nor there. I do think that they can be a better overall better team. But the high expectations come for me. We need Harold Perkins to have that money year that he's looking to have. We need, bona fidely need somebody at corner to step up. And look, I think there's high expectations on a guy like Harold Perkins and maybe a corner, but you need Perkins to be the superstar that you know he can be. Don't do like Matt House and get very one-sided focused with him. Let him rush the passer. Let him get after. And I don't think Blake Baker showed a lot of things in the spring game. Hell no, he didn't. But this team is going to go. This team's forecast for me, this team will go as they run the football. I think that Vegas puts you at where you're at mainly due to the fact of the guys that you have along your offensive line. And I tell you this all the time. You know, we can talk about all these individuals. When you can dominate at the line of scrimmage, it's why I'm so concerned about you on the other side of the football. But when you can dominate up front, it can help you and get you to another place that you honestly didn't expect that you would be. So when I look at the lines at LSU and they're favored in majority of these games, besides Texas A&M, who, by the way, has a really good defensive line, when I look at them, I say, well, they're leaning on the fact that, well, LSU's probably going to dominate on the offensive line and why they're favored there. I think they look at a guy like Nusmeier and say, look, man, the kid looked good against Wisconsin, and he didn't take a step back. He looks really good in the spring game. But, man, I think you can control the game by what you do offensively. If you don't want your defense out there all the time, don't do it. And I think Brian Kelly alluded to this during the spring when he said, we're going to lean on this running game and this offensive line. That's a direct quote. Slow the game down some. You know, when you did that against Wisconsin, when you did that against A&M, when you did that against Missouri, what happened? Well, what happened was you were able to come back and you actually did make some stops. So, from a line perspective, LSU is going to be a 10-win team. But that never pans out the way. They'll be around 9 to 10 wins like they normally are. The question becomes, if you want to take that next step, you need 2 or 3 guys defensively to not only take that next step, but to break out. Harold Perkins, does one of these freshmen at safety come out of nowhere? Deshaun McBride. Do you find a freshman corner in P.J. Woodland is doing things that you didn't even imagine that a freshman corner would be able to do this time last year? So I look at them and say, I think, look, man, you're going to lean on your bona fide guys, but we need some breakout superstars. And I would scheme, listen to me, I would scheme everything I'm doing defensively, especially on second and third downs, on some of these teams that you're going to play, scheming up Harold Perkins getting to the quarterback. Don't always worry about your scheme. That's what got Matt House beat. Put your athletes in right positions to make plays, and I think you'll be fine. All right. That is my opening monologue. Let's get to a couple of your questions. Jordan says, muted. I'm not muted. I don't think that I'm muted. Am I muted? No, there's no way that I'm muted. Give me a thumbs up if y'all can hear me. I see 3 people in the comments saying, Blake, you're muted. I'm not muted, am I? Tommy J. Stone says, exactly. They're going to be a power running offense with play action utilizing the tight ends a lot. I see a lot of 2 tight end packages. So let's go with that to Tommy's point. I agree with it. I fully agree with that. And look, we saw that a lot in spring, and I'm glad you brought that up, Tommy. Look, we saw a lot of times, and look, here is, and I was going to wait until we got to August to see if they continue to do this. Guys, they ran a lot of bootleg action stuff. Lots of outside zone, lots of buck sweep, lots of power, because they're utilizing their offensive line to be more beneficial and leaning on them. Look, I don't know now with the helmets or the radios in the helmets, if you're not able to take a step back, hell, you might even be able to go faster. I don't know. I don't know what Brian Kelly's mindset is. It was the question that I asked him, though. I 100% asked him, like, Coach, what do you think about this? And so I look at Brian Kelly. I look at this offense. I can see you going 12 personnel a lot. I'm not saying you're going to be Notre Dame because I think you're more athletic on the outside than Notre Dame ever was, or quite honestly, I'll be real with you, ever will be. Right? Like I think that you're not going to be so pro style like Notre Dame was in those years. But I do think that you're going to see a lot of more wrinkles. And I think that, I think that Denbrock and Brian Kelly utilize Jaden Daniels to his strengths. And they're going to use Garrett to more of their system. Doesn't mean that Garrett's not going to throw the ball all over the place. He is. I'm not saying that. I just think that they will use Mason Taylor a lot more. You know, I think that they'll run some different type of RPOs that, you know, especially under center, like check at the line, just like throw out a quick screen, let Kyron Lacey make a play. You know, like I legitimately can see two plays being called in a huddle, and if a corner is backed off of Kyron Lacey and you're under center, Garrett Nusmeier taking the snap under center, throwing it to Kyron on first down and getting 6, 7, 8 yards. I can see that. I think you're going to be more pro style. So when you lean on an offensive line like this, you can control the pace of a game. If you want to go fast, you can. If you want to slow it down, you can. So I will lean on so many people disagree with me. I think that you have to be, and Brian Kelly alluded to this too. I think the pace of play for them has to come down, because I think if you give Blake Baker enough time to work on things and you know, think and talk to players and talk to staff, they will get things fixed in game. Guys, we literally saw Blake Baker do that throughout this 2 seasons at Missouri. You know, I think of that Tennessee game where he literally just choked them out. Why? Missouri leaned on their offensive line. They didn't go to their bona fide wide receivers, and you got a lot of really good wide receivers to go to, and you will. One other thing. I do believe that Joe Sloan and Brian Kelly are going to tell Garrett, like, even if you think that something is open in an RPO, give it. I don't mind this play style. I really don't. Now, on the defensive side of things, guys, you need Harold Perkins. You need him to be Superman. You need Perk. I'm serious when I say this. It's going to sound outlandish. You need Perk to get 10 to 14 sacks. 14 being just outrageous. You need him to get to double digits. You need him to get to double digits as quickly as possible. I think what happened with Perk last year is that teams didn't have to really scheme him up because he wasn't coming off the edge. They weren't doing exotic things with him. But I think Blake Baker, look, here's the thing. Either two things are going to happen, okay, defensively. Either number one, you're going to be a lot like you were last year and be a lot like what Matt House did and not make adjustments. Or you're going to be more creative and do things differently and be multiple and not sit on your hands. You're going to have to be. The personnel is going to force Blake Baker to be more multiple, even if he didn't want to be. I don't, for the future, guys, I don't worry about the defensive line. I think Bo's going to be fine there. In the long run, I think he'll be fine. I think he will develop. I think he will get guys in here and develop them, and you will get better at that position. But you need Kevin Peoples. You need to lean on your staff. Guys, here's something that's been lost, and I guess just because, you know, it's worn off a little bit, I do think that you have a really good staff defensively, a very good staff. I don't know if the staff has the personnel, but what I do know is if you don't take a step forward defensively, it's not coming from the coaching staff. It's coming from your inability to have guys that can make plays. You got to put Perk in a really good situation. You got to put Greg Penn in really good situations. You got to put Whit Weeks in really good situations. You got to put Deshaun Womack, Braden Swinson, and these DBs in really good situations. I think you can't worry about, like, legitimately, if Sage Ryan busts a play, you got to take him out. If anybody busts plays, you got to find somebody that can come in and play. You can't lean on the experience. You don't have that luxury. Like, for example, in 2011, and Brandon Taylor was on here, maybe 6 months ago, the former number 18, the guy that I played with in high school, grew up with. And I asked him if you remember about that West Virginia game that they played in 11. And I said, Brandon, they ran a lot of air raid principles. And that first half, man, like Geno Smith was out there throwing. And he said, look, man, we busted coverages. Tyron busted a couple of coverages. And we came to the sideline like, man, hey, this shit's over with. We're done. I want some more dogs, yes, to say that. But when those guys missed coverages, you knew that they were going to respond and get right and do the right things. You don't have the situation or luxury now. If a guy continues to bust plays, out of there. As Angel Hernandez never mind, I'm going to leave that alone. But no, I'm not. As Angel Hernandez will do on a fastball that's 4 inches off the plate, you're out of there. Get him out. You can't, look, right now that you're going to be in very peculiar situations. Why not give it a shot? I think Deshaun McBride's the best safety you got on this team right now. I'm just being real with you. I know that there's been some arguments in reference to him coming up and filling the run. None of the other dudes are either. But I know one thing, that dude can cover. I know that he's going to be in the right place when he needs to be. Hell, he showed you that all spring. I hope that kid has a great offseason too. We really need him to. All right. A couple of more. Tyler says BK got to start kicking the ball at the beginning of the game if they're going to play slow and wear teams down. I don't agree with that. I mean, I get what you're saying, but Georgia don't always do that. You know what? Look, if you want an understanding of more of what you're going to look like, go watch Georgia. Go watch Georgia. I think you're going to be more pro style like that. You're going to be out of the gun a lot more, but you're going to be outside zone, 12 personnel, bunch left, 12 bunch left, boot right. It's what you're going to be. And look, when you do this, hear me and hear me now. Quarterback's got to be a very good decision maker. He can't just, and I think you'll do things in the gun too. You're not going to be anemic. You're not going to Les Miles this bitch. Like, I'm not saying Blake's saying Les Miles is coming back. Not even remotely close. We're going to run tall stop. Well, guys, if you execute it well enough, it doesn't matter what the frick you run. You got to execute better. And look, it is what it is with that. I mean, you're going to have to be better in certain situations. All right, let's do this. Yeah, I'll get to this, and then we'll get to that. I'll probably do it at 45. Jordan says, trust in Nuss. He learned from Daniels and the coaches. Well, look. So here's the truth about Nusmeier, in my eyes. Do I think he can come in year one and be really good? Yeah, I do. There are a couple of things I worry about with Nuss, like I do with every first season starting quarterback. You know, what happens when, and I get, well, Blake, we saw it against Wisconsin. Well, guys, there's a difference against playing against Wisconsin. There's a difference in playing Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma. Those things are different. He needs to, I want to see him with his team more. I want to see shit coming out there on social media of them out there throwing during the summer. So there's one thing in learning from somebody, and there's one thing of being a backup that's really talented. Can you be the guy? I think he is really talented. I do think that, there are some things the inexperience is going to hurt him on. Look, I've said this at length. I hadn't liked what I've seen from him all spring in the red zone. Not at all. Guys, go back and watch their red zone. I mean, he tried to throw an RPO that guys against Bama, against a lot of teams that you play in the SEC. I mean, that shit's going to the house. That shit's going to get picked. And those are the things that you have to avoid. You cannot turn the football over when your defense is going to be subpar. You can't. You got to, I think the best quarterback that we've ever had that's done this. Actually, the best two quarterbacks that we've ever had here, Jane Daniels and Joe Burrow, were exceptional of living to the next play, going to the next play. Like, if something's dead, they will live till tomorrow because they know and trust in their ability enough to be able to, like, hey, man, if it's not there, make something happen with myself if I need to. But if it is, I'll go to it. Garrett's going to have to really learn not forcing something. Like, for example, the pick that he threw against Wisconsin, that's way too forced. There's no reason that you should be scrambling to your left, making a cross-body throw. You can't do that. And guys, I will tell you, if you played a better offense, you legitimately might not have won that football game. I question if you would have won that football game. So, look, I would rather Nusmeier have 30 touchdowns, 5 picks than 40 touchdown and 12 picks. Cannot turn the football up. And look, you know what's interesting? You know what really won you the game? This is deep analytical stuff. Your defense got you some stops. And when you make stops, you get the ball more. How about this? Garrett Nusmeier, in the one game that Garrett Nusmeier started this year, there was no game that Jane Daniels had more possessions than the games that Garrett Nusmeier started in. Not one. Garrett Nusmeier had 16 or 17 possessions. Jane would usually sit around 12 to 13. Why? Because they weren't getting any stops. And you got to have the faith that you can be on 4th and 2. Hey, man, you know what? We're going to punt it. It's early in the game. We're going to punt it. And you got to have the faith that you can make the stop. Because I worry about Ole Miss. I worry about Alabama. I worry about USC. Because those teams, regardless of what you think about Bama or USC as a team, those teams are going to be able to score. I promise you, Kalen DeBoer, the offensive wizard that he is, people think that, Nick's gone, DeBoer. Guys, I'm telling you, he is an offensive wizard. Don't play around with them. And then you got Ole Miss coming in here, and there's no – I mean I don't know. All right. Let's get to a quick break. We'll come back, talk a little bit of baseball, and I'll field your questions. Thoughts, questions, concerns. Fire them inside the Rudy Crew chat. We'll get to them next. Stay with us. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with a great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements.
By the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Whether you've been injured in an accident, you're preparing for a future with your estate planning, you're getting ready to close in on a real estate deal, or you're about to welcome a new addition through adoption into your family, or you're facing criminal charges, you need very experienced attorneys, and that is what the Drake Williams Law Firm will be able to do for you in navigating the legal system. The door to their cozy office in historic downtown Ponchatoula has been open since 1981. They have helped thousands and thousands of Louisiana families and individuals win cases, close on real estate deals, and regain that peace of mind. Their lawyers over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, are very determined, compassionate, and dedicated to their craft. It's the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by.
J&J has protected Louisiana homes and businesses for over 60 years.
Call him today, make the pests go away. J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
A couple of things here very quickly. I'm going to continue to tell you at least over the next 30 days, you guys, please, can you guys please do me a favor? Give me a thumbs up in the comments if you can do your boy a favor. Please do me a favor. I need you to go over to Melon, melon.com/AYS. Use that promo code AYS to get 30% off of your order. Best hats on the market, no question about it. Secondly, did y'all see this? I gotta bring this up. Hold on one second. Let me bring this up very quickly. Yeah, guys, I'm going to do it. I think that this might be one of the more wilder things that I've seen in some time here. So I'm going to bring it up. This is from Richard Davenport, AR recruiting guy who covers Arkansas. And he states that Monte Harrison, who is a former professional baseball player, who was a 4-star receiver in high school a decade ago, literally was in the 2014 recruiting class, has committed to play football at Arkansas and is a walk-on for Sam Pittman and the Razorbacks. I got to admit this. I mean, why not? Why not try to bring somebody in? I mean, a guy that was a Major League Baseball player. Hey, man, Sam Pittman's got to do whatever he can to try to get some guys that can play some receiver. How old is this dude? Like, how old is Monte Harrison? I need to know this. I need to know just how old Monte Harrison is. Because what's so crazy about that is this man going to be 30 years old running out there? How old is this dude? He is 1995. Damn. So he is. Or damn near close to it. Bruh. So August the 10th is my man's birthday. No freaking way. He's going to be 29. 6'1", 218 is Monte Harrison. So you have a 29-year-old. So imagine some of you that are listening to this show are probably 30, 31, 32, or you're in your late or mid to mid 20s. Imagine this guy coming out here and playing college football. Never hadn't played since high school, a decade ago. Let's see if it works. I don't know if it will, but never doubt Sam Pittman to make a splash in the most unrealistic ways Possible. Now, I will say, we have seen quarterbacks do it, like Chris Winkie did it. Who was the guy from Oklahoma State that did it? Was it Brandon, golly, I forget that guy's name who was at Oklahoma State. Guys, remind me, who was the guy, remember, was a quarterback at Okie State, got drafted in the first. Brandon Weeden. That's it. Thank you, guys. Brandon Weeden. Have we seen a guy that plays receiver come in here and do that? I think my man's going to get hurt. I mean, if you're 29 and playing college football at receiver, DB, safety, whatever, you're probably going to break a hip. I mean, I'm just being honest. And I mean, you're going from baseball, to the most physical contact sport alive. What is my man doing, yo? Good for him, though. He gets to play. But, I mean, I don't know, man. That's just, that's nuts. Also, dude, have y'all been seeing all this stuff posted on Facebook about these swarming termites? We actually had them at our house. Called J&J Exterminating. They're coming out to take care of it. What a pest they are. Literally, and pun intended. So call J&J Exterminating and let them know that Blake sent you on by. All right. So we got some midweek madness. No, I'm not talking about T-ball with Ben Ruffino today. I'm talking about the last midweek game for LSU baseball. So look, I want to not really even talk about or break down the game today for LSU. Here's what I want to talk about. I think LSU's been relatively really good under Jay Johnson in midweek games. I mean, yeah, they had the couple losses. They lost to Southern Miss. They lost to – who else did they lose to? I forget who else they lost to. Maybe a couple years ago, they lost to Nichols 2 years ago when they won the Natty. They lost to Louisiana Tech and Ruston. Jay's been relatively really good at midweek games. And I will tell you, I know that this goes unnoticed and overlooked. I do think it's a big deal. Like when you can get your team up so many times. And look, I will say this. We talked about this on last Wednesday. When you have a big game in the midweek, it can give you confidence going into a weekend. You have a big game today. Do you have confidence going into the weekend again? Like when you beat Grambling that bad and you go out there and you dominate, baseball's a funny sport. I just hope they go over there and go out tonight and dominate. I see Anthony ask who's going to start tonight. I don't know. I would assume Kate Anderson. I would assume. But I do not. I don't know that. But that's what I would assume would start tonight on the mound. And then you would just get a rotational piece of guys, maybe Yoa and some other guys. That's who what I would expect. So it's been a really, really good year and another year in the midweek for Jay. And it goes unnoticed. Nobody's going to praise you for it because people say it doesn't matter. It does matter. It does matter. You could be, like if you heard Tom Hart and Kyle Peterson's like, well, Florida's barely over 500. Well, you know why, man? Because they got their shit kicked in a lot of midweek games too. Lost a couple times to Florida State, lost to like Jacksonville State, got their shit kicked in. All fun and games until you're getting your shit kicked in multiple times in a midweek game. All right. Let me get to this question before we move to the final thought here. Anthony, I'm about to talk about your Saints for just a second. Linda Young says, seriously, like, how can we say our defensive line is that bad when they go against probably the best offensive line in the country? It's a good question. Because, Linda, here's the reason why, okay? And I do think it's a really good question. I think mainly due to the fact that you lost 3 interior defensive linemen. Your pass rush from a season ago, I don't think has gotten better, at least not yet, and especially not from the interior. So you have 3 guys that were draft picks that are gone. You haven't replenished that position group with players that you think that can play here and be dominant. There aren't going to be or wouldn't be rotational pieces. And I think, Linda, one thing is for sure, when you have 3 defensive linemen that got drafted and you still were bad in that area, that should concern you. And don't take it from me. I mean, Brian Kelly said the same. Like, that was the position group he wanted to go after the most. And I think, Linda, for me, we can say that, oh, well, they're just really good. So maybe they're not as bad. Maybe they're just going against a really good offensive line. Well, here's a counter argument to that. Good should be going on good. The O-line shouldn't always dominate, because here's the truth. The interior for offensive line's not first-round picks. It's Will Campbell and Emory Jones that will be. Like, Gary Dellinger's not going to hear his name called in the first round of the NFL draft. Maybe DJ Chester at some point in his life could, but Miles Frazier isn't. You're talking about subliminal mid-4th, 5th, 6th round draft picks that are playing in the interior. Now, maybe DJ Chester can be different. But I think about guys like, like all the battles that you had at receiver versus corner, good going against good. Like, you don't have that right now. And so that's my thought on it. Okay. Let me wrap it up with this. I don't talk a lot of Saints on the show, but I'm about to make one quick exception. We're going to talk about it right here very quickly. I am so tired of some of the Saints media. Let me explain. I am shocked that, and I see them, and I like a lot of them, love a lot of them. I am shocked that a lot of Saints media are flabbergasted that the Saints drafted a right tackle and didn't think that Ryan Ramczyk wasn't in more of a serious issue than he is. When you draft with your number 1 pick a right tackle, what do you think was going on? I'm honestly flabbergasted. Coaches aren't rocket scientists. They're not psychologists. They're football coaches. They're going to tell you by their actions and sometimes their words what they think of their team. So you go into the draft, you draft a right tackle from Oregon State, and you thought, oh, well, they're restructuring Ryan Ramczyk's contract. I wonder what that means. Well, it means they're probably trying to set up just in case if he doesn't play. Again, actions have meaning. They have more meaning than words ever will. I think that we have, as Saints fans, we have come naive to the fact of where they are legitimately. I don't think they're good offensively. I think Kamara is getting older. I think Chris Olave's not bad. I don't think you addressed anything at tight end. I don't think your offensive line's that great. You got a lot of question marks there outside of Eric McCoy, really. What are you going to do at left guard? Is Trevor Penning ready to play at left tackle? Are you going to rely on a guy? Are you sure that your first-round draft pick can play and sustain at right tackle? Do you trust in Derek Carr? Oh, by the way, you're in a completely new offensive scheme. Completely new. How does Derek Carr deal with that? Is he able to be better than he has been? I do not know. It again just absolutely amazes me that we have teams, okay, that do have talented players, but the writing has been on the wall. The Saints didn't get better than in this draft. I think the 4 pick wasn't bad. I don't think the Kool-Aid McKinstry pick was bad, but I'm not ever really worried about them defensively. I think they'll be fine defensively. It's offensively that I have the issues. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow, man. Y'all have a good one. I'm about to take my way on to a T-ball game. Until then, we'll talk to y'all soon, man. Remember, Melon hat, melon.com/AYS. Go get you a hat. Do it right now. Do it right now. Do it right now. Peace.